Growing a startup is tough. You have limited resources.
Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Hi, Mati.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling you from Spain today.
Very nice.
Yeah. I'm driving, so I'm going to keep the camera off. But I am very interested to hear about the forensics of this 2011 transaction. It seems like we're in for a nice show today.
Perfect. We just need Dudu to fix his microphone, and then we'll be fine.
Dudo, you're not even fixed yet.
Nah, we can't hear you.
Snir, have we met before?
Yeah, but I think you were drunk, so you probably don't remember.
Ah, really? I don't think. When? Okay. I'm not sure when that happened exactly.
I think in the
Doesn't happen often
Bitcoin
these days.
party. I think in the party like 1 month ago in the, where was it?
The Bitcoin pizza party.
The Bitcoin pizza party, yeah.
Ah, right on. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Very cool. You want to tell us a bit about what you do while we're waiting on Dudu?
Of course, we can start. So I'm the founder and CEO of Nominis. Nominis is a company that dealing with crypto intelligence, and specifically we developed a product for blockchain investigation and risk assessment for crypto wallets. We work today globally. We have tens of clients all over the world, including exchanges, payment provider, law enforcement agencies, and basically everyone who receiving or sending funds in crypto, and also investigations that need to trace
Can you
funds.
guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted. Excited to be.
Still, not very much. Not very. Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello, 1, 2.
No, the volume is not.
Yeah, we read you, Dudu, loud and clear. Just pick up your mic a bit. There you go.
Okay. Back to you, Snir.
We don't need to see your built pecs, man.
That's my face. You're seeing my face. Yeah, you want to see my pulled pecs? Yeah, we can do the whole show like that. Let's go.
You got the wrong audience for that, man. Crypto is 99% men.
I do know that straight men. That's what you. That's
Now we can hear.
Not backed up by any data. Just something's very messed up with my system. But back to you, Snir.
Sure. So, like I've mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Nominis, which deals with crypto intelligence. We've built a platform for blockchain investigation and wallet screening, risk assessment, money trail. We work today globally, have tens of clients all over the world, working with exchanges, payment providers, law enforcement agencies, different types of entities, different use cases. And happy to be here today.
Mati, first of all, what are you doing in Spain? And second of all, GM to you.
GM, I'm just avoiding the anti-Semites, dodging them left, right, and center. I saw a huge rally 2 days ago on Reddit, an hour from where I'm staying. It's like they have like an annual bull run festival, and I hear them shouting "genocide, genocide, free Palestine" in Spanish. It was pretty nuts. I'm like, whoa, that's right next to me here. We're like thousands of people all dressed in red and getting really hyped up on that crap.
Wait, talk to me about this bull run. Where can we expect it? Is it going to pump all our bags or just some?
I don't know. I mean, like a physical bull run, like they let the bulls run in the streets and then they run out.
Okay.
Not like a crypto bull run. No, that's they're not getting hyped up about that. Unfortunately, they were all dressed in red, so wrong color. If you wanted a real bull run, dress in green.
I hear you. GM to the Dogfather. Dogfather is a Bitcoin crypto creator, so it's very interesting to bring Snir on. Snir, I want to get into a lot of things with you. I want to first talk about how I met Snir, and it's not a happy story. So please drop your condolences in the comments. So Snir and I met earlier this year. I downloaded a Phantom, not a Phantom. Sorry, I don't want to use the wrong name, but I downloaded a Magic Eden wallet. It probably was a fake wallet. That's the only way I could think of that I got hacked, because I downloaded the wallet, and that was just as Magic Eden pioneered like a new in-app swap between Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I decided to just test out the swap just to see, because I've always had a problem with, I think everyone has the same problem of getting in and out from Bitcoin to crypto without going through a centralized exchange. For a number of reasons, you might want to go on chain, do the whole thing on chain. and I swapped Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then a few hours later, I just see everything's gone. Like all the Bitcoin in my wallet, all the Ethereum in my wallet. I must have given permissions for to ever whatever I signed, whatever contracts I signed, and they
The
drained
worst
my
nightmare,
wallet.
man.
Yeah, it was about 5K US worth of coin. So didn't bankrupt me, thank God. Like I use hardware wallets and Zengo for most of my crypto. But 5K is still a punch in the nuts, I can buy you some shawarmas for a couple years. And more importantly, at the time, like I round tripped that shit back and forth. But at the time, I held some ordinals that were worth quite a bit on that wallet, and I called Snir, like I messaged in the group, in the Yellow Bitcoin group, and then Moran from Nominis, she's like, "Oh, you got to get in touch with Snir," and within a few minutes, he was already diagnosing the situation, and he showed me how the hacker had already taken other victims to town, and he showed me how where the money flow was coming from. But more importantly, he gave me the best advice, and this is the best advice that you can have. I'm going to cut this part out and use this as a snippet because everyone needs to know about this advice, and that is when you get hacked, the first thing you need to do is wallet hygiene. Open a new wallet with a new set of keys, right? And transfer all the assets into that wallet. Because what happens oftentimes is the hacker will be in your system. They'll have some sort of permissions to access your coin. That doesn't mean they'll drain you all at once. It could mean that and I saw this with my own eyes because I was lazy and I left a few like dust, a few random runes on that wallet, and 2 3 months later they did indeed come and drain me. So you got to be quick, you got to move quickly, you got to move your coins as soon as you get hacked. You got to move those coins off the exchange. So that's how I met Snir, and back then they were still called something else. They pivoted to Nominis, and it's great to have him on the show. He sponsored the pizza party. I want to kind of get into your background a little bit first before we go into what you do and into the movement on chain of the whale. I think everyone's interested in that. I had a few normie friends reach out to me as well, like what's happening here? What does this mean? Why would someone move their coins? So definitely interested in hearing more about that. But first, maybe tell us a little bit about like your background. What brought you to this point of being a forensic expert, a sort of what's his name, that famous detective, a Sherlock Holmes of the blockchain.
So I started in the crypto space in 2017, out of curiosity, we can say. Yeah. Just started to studying about Bitcoin, created some lectures for beginners about it, and then after it, I moved. I worked in the financial industry since 2014, so it wasn't like a big switch for me, to move from the traditional finance to crypto. And I always loved technology. So, then over time, I've understood that this is something interesting. And then in 2000, I think it was 2020, something like that. Unfortunately, I got an offer from Celsius, the infamous Celsius, to work as a data scientist. So I moved to Celsius. I was part of the security team in Celsius, and dealt with detecting anomalies in fraud and stuff like this in users' accounts. And I think there I became very much aware about how easy today for people get scammed. You know, we see a lot of clients that eventually they had a social engineering stuff. Someone else tries to hack their accounts, use them, and etc. So I think during this period, I studied a lot about blockchain investigation and stuff like this. And then in 2023, after everything collapsed. I decided to open my own company. And then this is where like Nominis was established. At the beginning, it combines both compliance and security. But then over time, we understood that the main pain points of our clients is eventually risk screening of wallets. So we started digging more into this field, and we tried to build something that will be different from the current solutions that are more reactive and missing a lot of stuff. And then we've started working on some different approach to tackle money laundering and illicit financing and terror financing and clustering stuff. And we developed new methods for detecting risks over the blockchain, specifically compliance risks. And over time, you start seeing stuff. You're seeing hacks. You're seeing social engineering stuff. All those bad stuff about approvals, like happened to you. So you're becoming eventually familiar with the techniques that hackers are using. And this is, how you build those stuff. Every illicit actor has its own fingerprint today. That's super interesting. Like you can see different types of attacks, different types of methods. So it's really amazing. And every month there are new stuff that's happening. And we keep studying and understanding the new methods for how people get scammed, how fraud is happening. And we try to catch this, in real time and to be even preemptive in some cases. And today, by the way, you don't see this from the retail side, but actually every day we see around $35 million of bad funds that goes into all the mainstream exchanges. This is like a huge amount. They're not.
I want to stop you there. I want to get into that because this is been on my mind now. You said the word bad funds. Like, what does that mean? Because the way I see it, with the whole, you mentioned compliance risk, and then there's like hacking and whatever. So compliance is a spectrum, right? That you've got some laws that are just like, don't take money from terrorist financing, right? So that's a little bit more black. But then there's a spectrum, and it gets more gray as you go along, right? So a case study that could be particularly relevant is something like in Israel. We all know that during the Biden administration, and I bring this up a lot because it's very close to home. I'm not a right-wing fanatic. I have right-wing opinions, but people who are a little bit to the right from me, right, were sanctioned by the Biden administration and had their bank accounts frozen. So that's you could call that bad funds, but that's not really, no, they're not hurting anyone. They're just not, they just kind of not falling afoul of the political flavor of the week. So something like that, how do you see something like that? Like if a government comes to you and says, show me this guy's transaction history, or show me this, like, how do you guys see the interplay between, on the one hand, we want to prevent bad actors, we want people to have recourse in case their funds get stolen. On the other hand, we don't want to create, because the blockchain is not anonymous, it's even more transparent than the fiat system. We don't want to create some sort of a big brother on chain that completely eradicates the values of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is something that sometimes people from the security industry we need to explain it to them. We have a lot of partnerships with security companies, like in the crypto space, DeFi security and stuff like this. And that's a completely different mindset. Like you mentioned, in security, there is usually black and white. You either get hacked or not get hacked. Yeah, it's very it's either someone hacking a protocol or not. There's some false positive, but the idea, you got the idea. In compliance, the spectrum is much more wider, and it really depends about the risk appetite of the organization. Let me tell you a story even. A lot of people, including me in the past, were used no KYC exchanges like Change Now, Change Hero, SideShift, a lot of them. In some cases, exchanges will not accept those funds. That's important to understand. Even those who didn't do anything that is not legit, some exchanges will not be able to accept funds from those exchanges because they have no KYC. And people sometimes don't understand this because they say, okay, I just wanted to switch my Bitcoin or my USDT to USDC or something like that. So I used, just even wrote on Google exchange, and I got all those type of platforms. I switched the funds, and now the exchange is not accepting my funds. So in terms of risk appetite, it really depends on the exchange the decentralized exchange that you want to switch the funds. And like you mentioned, the spectrum is very wide, and it's starting from the bottom, like low KYC exchanges or no KYC exchanges, and it goes into more exotic way, like high risk exchanges in specific jurisdictions, like Russian exchanges or Ukrainian exchanges as well. And also high-risk jurisdictions like exchanges in Iran or some countries that consider to be in the blacklist or gray list of the FATF. And there is also gambling that you can't accept in Israel. There is also, even sometimes like using MEV bots, gaming platforms, a lot of different stuff. The spectrum is really wide. We can we cover today over 40 different risk categories. And it really depends on the exchange. They're able to set the threshold by themselves and decide if they want to accept or reject funds based on the categories that link to this source of funds. So this is important, again, for people to understand. Sometimes they don't understand it. That even if they used, a lot of people using Kirex. Okay, another example, Kirex in some exchanges, the big ones, are not accepted. Okay, this is important to understand. You can't use Kirex bot, for example, to switch funds in some exchanges. You will get blocked.
What is Kirex?
Kirex, a lot of people know Kirex. It's a Telegram bot for switching funds. Like you can send, you get a Telegram address. You get an address via Telegram bot. You can send funds, switch, and do some other stuff. A lot of people using it. And they can easily get blocked. People don't understand this sometimes. Even, someone that didn't try to do anything malicious, by using an exchange that don't have KYC today, you put your money at risk. Okay, this is important because many exchanges won't be able to accept it. And some of them will even freeze your funds.
Yeah. Look, I personally, I don't touch exchanges anymore. Like, I try to move money in Israel. Like, I try to go from Kraken to my bank. They said no. Then I moved it from Bitstamp to my bank. They said no because it was USDT. They don't accept USDT source of funds. So I just gave up. And now, nothing's touching my bank. Like, there's ways to work around. I think there'll always be a spectrum and there'll always be workarounds. There's a reason why non-KYC exchanges still exist. And at the end of the day, Satoshi didn't set out when I go and swap dollars, maybe if I swap a lot, but if I go swap $2,000 or whatever at a change place or whatever, I don't necessarily need to go through a whole KYC process. I just give them dollars, they give me shekels. Bitcoin should be the same idea. It should be the same. And how are you guys looking at the I want to ask you the next question, and then we'll get to Mati. How do you guys see one thing that's been very new, and I see it from a lot of my friends. I see it especially in South Africa. My friends that are still there, is the travel rule, right? So I sent a buddy of mine some Bitcoin for his wedding to a South African exchange, and for 2 weeks we were just going back and forth with screenshots of them asking him for the source of funds. It's such a ball ache. It's such a pain in the ass. I assume that's part of your business, to sort of help companies implement the travel rule. So curious as to how you see that, that and whether that's gonna, because on Binance it's a bit easier. Like you'll just have like maybe two prompts. Is it mine? Is it not mine? Like, how do you see the travel rule playing out, and what is your role in helping people implement that?
Yeah, so today we deal with travel rule, but not directly. We have some partnerships with companies that are doing the travel rule, and it's very much complementary into what we do, because step one in travel rule is understanding the source of funds, or the direct attribution of the someone who sent you funds or the one that you're sending funds to. So the first step of the travel rule is understanding who are you dealing with. This is where KYT vendors, blockchain investigation platforms like we have are stepping into the picture. So in terms of what we do today, first step, of course, is to understand who is the counterparty. Now, the travel rule regulation is different in each country. In some countries, they say, okay, if you got funds from an exchange, you need to exchange the information to understand who is the owner of the account, and etc. Okay, it's very common in Europe. In Brazil, as an example, they do the same, but they want to put more restrictions, like you won't be able to interact with a private wallet. So we will only be able to move funds between exchanges and not between private wallet and exchanges. In other countries, again, it really depends. You will only be able to move funds between companies or exchanges that have regulation. So it really depends. The problem with this is that since it's not very clear for companies today how to implement the travel rule, there will be two issues. First, of course, it will cost them more. And second, we will see more friction between clients and those exchanges, because we'll see a lot of more cases where clients won't be able to move funds into an exchange due to the same thing that you mentioned now. The exchange will want some proof about where the funds came from. Travel rule eventually is in the way that it's currently they want to implement is not very good. They try to take the same approach that they did with the traditional financial system and to implement it some sort of as is into the crypto space, but we know that it doesn't work the same. In the traditional financial system, there is no really such thing unhosted wallet like MetaMask. The closest thing to this is like cash. But of course, the amounts are completely different. Today people in many exchanges, we can say that 50-60% of the transactions are from cash or from MetaMask, Trust Wallet, and etc. into the exchange, and the opposite. But in the traditional financial system, it's not like this. It's not that 50% goes from bank account to cash or cash to bank account. So it's a completely different stuff. And today, the travel rule doesn't distinguish between the things that are happening in the traditional financial system and the crypto space. And that's the issue, because it works differently.
Yeah, I hear you. For me, that makes me bearish on exchanges, because like exchanges aren't the only game in town anymore. You have the MetaMask card that you can use to kind of spend your crypto. You've got all these sort of options, and I see that I see that becoming more of the way, like stable to fiat without going through an exchange. Like you don't need an order book. People will just swap, on chain. They'll swap their tokens for stables, and then they'll sort of be able to use all these crypto credit cards. That's what I do today. That's what people are going to start doing more of. If exchanges become a ball ache, like the industry will move somewhere else, and only the sad thing is that only the noobs and the beginners and the people who aren't like living in the trenches 24/7, they'll get hurt, because they won't, like, maybe he bought Bitcoin 5 years ago and now he can't cash it out because he bought it from an exchange with no KYC or whatever. The people that know will be able to find a way around, and it's this is where me and I kind of get a bit of a shitty feeling inside, because it feels like the walls are closing in on what we want, like a fair, free wonderland of making money. Mati, what's your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Andreas Antonopoulos said it best, right? Um, Very early on, he said, banks are going to close their doors for crypto customers, and in some places that's gone the opposite way. Some places, it's banks have opened their doors, but certainly in Israel, they have shut their doors very tight, and I think that's in big part due to BB's statement about blockchain potentially replacing banks, and they didn't like that at all. That was like very, very immediate reaction from the time he said that in 2017 to the time that they just canceled all withdrawals and deposits to Binance and Kraken and everything else. But Andreas's point was, well, fuck you guys. I got skills. I can work on the internet. I can get paid in Bitcoin. There's goods and services that I want. I can pay for them in Bitcoin, and I don't need I don't need an invitation to your banking industry that like I was never a full citizen of anyways. And you're using a bank, it's very clear that it's not your money. Even just making a bank to bank transfer, I had to make one of those the other day. It's a freaking nightmare. They ask for so much information that's just none of their business. And then even then, it doesn't always work properly. And so we're building a better system, and the banks that are into that and supporting it are going to be better off in the long term. And the banks who are against that, they're going to lose customers and they're going to fade into irrelevance. In the meantime, yeah, there's certainly ways of getting your money in and out of traditional banks if you have to. Not stuff that I'm willing to discuss here on a live stream in front of a public audience. But it's definitely doable. And in the meantime, as we grow, those options will become freer and easier. Trump is a huge win for the crypto industry, and as we know, the United States tends to follow, or Israel tends to follow the United States in these type of things. So decriminalization of marijuana and those type of things, like as U.S. policy changes, Israel policy tends to change relatively soon afterward. So I think that it is only a matter of time before we have crypto-friendly banks in Israel. But it's not something that I'm particularly like. My bank, the one that I'm using now, man, they are terrible. They hate crypto so much with a passion. Anytime I swing things through under their radar sometimes. It's kind of funny, but they get so upset about it. And then they start asking me for like source of funds and stuff like that. It's like, well, here's the source of funds. And then they don't shut up. They're like, well, we want to see like a record of all transactions that ever happened with this money. And like piss off, man. They just try and bury you in paperwork, and not great. I also wanted to give a quick comment on just a funny story that happened, or not funny. It was like I met this chick that you were talking about in the beginning. She wasn't very careful with her private keys. She thought she was talking to MetaMask support or something, and they asked her for her private keys, and she just gave them to them. And like I was like in shock. This is like a really Dogecoin kind of collector. She had all these kind of hundreds of worthless NFTs in her wallet. And I told her, get your NFTs out of your wallet. She's like, well, I don't have money for gas. And every time I put the gas money in there, the hacker steals it. So it was a bit of a like. There's some things that are irreversible. Like she collected those worthless things like trading cards for years and years, and then all of a sudden that hacker, like you can't. I think the hacker didn't even want those dumb NFTs anyways, but she couldn't have them back because she couldn't even transfer them out. So
RRP.
type of things happen. You got to be careful out there.
Yeah.
Let's
Dudu,
talk about tell me.
I want to show you and the audience something, the mindset of an exchange. Do you mind if I'll share something?
Let's go. Share your screen. We love demos here.
Perfect. Let me show you something. Let me show you something. I want you all to understand the way that exchanges are thinking. How is the compliance team in exchanges are working? And that's important for you to understand. That's not really Dudu Wallet, but just as an example for you to understand, okay? When an analyst or chief compliance or compliance analyst got your funds into any exchange, if it's Coinbase, Binance, and etc., what's their mindset? And this is what I want to show you.
Why's my name there? Are you stalking why's my name there? I see my name there. Are you stalking my fans?
Yeah, just as an example. That's just as an example.
Holy shit, Mati, I need to be careful. Who knows what feds this guy shared my data with?
Just as an example, let's say the Dudu
Let's see, okay.
Let's say the Dudu wants to use a no KYC exchange or low KYC exchange to move funds. How the compliance analyst on Coinbase or any other exchange in the world, what exactly does he see? So Dudu sent funds to deposit funds on some no KYC or low KYC exchange. So the funds moved into the main wallet of this exchange. And then those funds were sent to Dudu deposit in legit exchange. When the compliance analyst or risk analyst taking a look, this is what you see. You see funds that are coming from, in this case, let's assume it's Exchange Euro, which is a no KYC exchange. But then you see that the main wallet of Change Euro is derived from a lot, the funds, the total volume derived from a lot of Iranian exchanges that are actually funding terrorists all around the world. Abantetel, Nobitex, and a lot of different stuff. Those are all wallets that Iranian users use them. So Dudu's funds or anyone else's funds are mixed up with those wallets and then sent into the deposit address of, in this case, Dudu. So what the compliance analysts see is a combination of not legit funds that came from a no KYC exchange, and this is a red flag for him. This is why they can't accept those funds. Every time that you use a no KYC exchange or low KYC exchange, especially those that are not very much familiar, like not very much well known, you put your money at risk, because in some cases you might get them back, but in many cases you will not just get flagged, you'll get blocked, and they won't be able to send you back the funds because they will be mixed up with terror financing. So eventually you will use your money, you will get blocked, and they will file something that's called suspicious activity report, which might track your account, which might link to your account to terror financing. And that's important for you to understand. When you use some not legit exchanges or shady one, you put your money and you put not just your money, but yourself at risk of eventually, you'll get knocked on the door because your funds got mixed up with terror financing. That's important for you all to understand. That's the mindset of exchanges.
Let me ask you something. Asking for a friend, obviously. If I have my money on, because I would never move money from an exchange to it. I've learned the hard way that whenever you're withdrawing, always withdraw to a self-custodied wallet, and always deposit from your own self-custody wallet to an exchange. Never tell like a client or a supplier or whatever to pay you into an exchange, because they might send, I've had that once where someone sent on the wrong blockchain to Kraken and the funds were gone. So I've learned that the hard way. If I go change now, whatever, non-KYC exchange to my self-hosted MetaMask, from there to Binance or Coinbase, am I still at risk as if I went direct?
So let's go back 5-6 years ago. That was one of the way to distinguish or to obfuscate the source of funds. By the way, there was a leak of Nobitex exchange, Iranian exchange. One of the procedures that they have and their explanation about moving funds, they recommended their users to obfuscate the source of funds by using the same method that you just mentioned. Okay, like Nobitex, the exchange, that was one of the procedures to make people send funds from Iranian funds into legit exchanges was to use self-custody. But it doesn't really, I mean, in the past it worked well. Today it doesn't work well. Makes sense because, today the technology is much more developed than in the past. So, it really depends again on the vendor that the exchanger is using and the risk appetite. But the bottom line is that if you don't want your funds, if you don't want to put your funds or yourself at risk, don't use shady exchanges. That's the bottom line, because every time you use a shady exchange, no KYC exchange, again, especially those that are not familiar with, like the small ones, you put yourself and your money at risk of getting blocked, and eventually your name or your wallet address will be sent to law enforcement agencies. This is important for you, for your safety. So you should be aware of this. This is the way. This is what expected today from exchanges, by the way, to report about suspicious activities. So anything like this might be reported.
Yeah,
so that's
I hear
okay.
you.
That's okay to have to use. I mean, I understand why people want to, prefer not to do KYC, and that makes sense, obviously. But again, even if you try to use platforms that don't have KYC, use the big ones that you can count on, not the small ones that you might be getting blocked. This is important.
But why are we even making a distinction here about KYC or not KYC? I think the distinction should be reputable exchange or non-reputable exchange, right? Because even a shitty small exchange can do a KYC on you and they can still rip you off, right? So I don't know why you're making the distinction there between KYC and non. Maybe just say use a reputable exchange and not a shady exchange, right?
Yeah, but what is a reputable exchange? Reputable exchange is usually, exchange that has KYC, and even this, it's not enough today. Like a lot of exchanges that have KYC are not considered to be legit today. This is also important to understand. A lot of Chinese exchanges, a lot of even Russian exchanges that have KYC. So KYC is not necessarily the measure about if an exchange is legit or not. It's more about if the exchange is doing taking proactive approach to stop illicit financing or not. This is why exchanges like Change Now are still able to, we can say, survive, but it became very difficult also for them to work. I believe that, in the next few years, probably the regulator, the SEC, will have some issues with the platforms like Change Now and companies like this. They will need to settle somehow and to change the way that they're working. Because even though, the Change Now is trying to do some proactive approach and they do KYT and they try to stop illicit financing, it's difficult to do this when you let everyone using your platform without KYC. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, interesting.
Like Mexi, for example, take Mexi, right? They don't KYC people. But I wouldn't say that this is like a shady exchange, right? I mean, it's
not a shady exchange at all. It's not, and I believe that today a lot, or the majority of the exchanges in the world, if not all of them, won't have an issue to get funds from them. Some of them might not allow you to do this directly. But I can tell you that I believe that over time, we'll see more and more exchanges that start blocking funds from all those no KYC exchanges, even those that take proactive approach. This is important. And again, I aim today I hope that no one will get blocked. This is what I'm trying to say. But I believe that anyone who is using such exchanges eventually put himself in some sort of risk. If not now, then in the future. So it's important to understand the risk.
Okay, I want to ask one more question about this risk, and then we can move on to the end off with the $8 billion worth of Bitcoin that was moved on. cross-chain bridging, like if I bridge from not EVM because that stays on the same wallet, but let's say my friend takes up from Mexi withdraws Bitcoin and then he bridges it over to Solana using whatever synthetic whatever. Like, does that kind of clear the risk, or do you guys have a way to map exactly one-to-one what's happening with cross-chain bridging?
That's a good question. We can say that it depends on the bridge. We can see. Let's take a look at the past. I believe there was a called I think it was that was used a lot by North Korea to launder funds through Bitcoin. I believe it was this one. And the problem with this that eventually it doesn't exist anymore. It got shut down. And also we can see from the Bybit hack that some exchanges, like the infamous one, X, got shut down because people use them, not just North Korea, but people use them, a lot of illicit actors use them to launder funds, to bridge the funds. So it really depends on the type of the bridge that you're using. It's pretty much same like with the other no KYC exchanges. If you use the big ones, the reputable ones, as far as I know, there are no issues today to move funds if you're using the legit ones, like you mentioned. But again, if you go into more exotic bridges that people are not familiar with, you expose yourself to more risk.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
people think because of fees, by the way. But my point here is that fees shouldn't be, especially if it's a small amount, spend $50 more, but make sure that you're using a bridge that is legit.
yeah, of course. I think that applies not only my issue here is that it's like it seems like the regulations getting stricter. They're gonna cast a wide net and start blocking people, and that's gonna start having like wide-ranging ramification. And even with very little cause. So it's like just because my friend, it's not me, my friend is interested in all these things. It doesn't make him a criminal. It just means that I've been in a position where I'm someone who I work in crypto, I earn in stables, I live in this industry. More and more people are becoming like me. When I first started 8 years ago, there I didn't know anyone who was getting paid in stablecoin, right? I was getting paid in stablecoins. I didn't know anyone else who's getting now. Like I can name you 10 people already, like friends and employees and suppliers and whatever. But for all these people, like you need to have backup plans. Like if I need to pay rent or if I need to pay for my kids to go to school, and a lot of a big chunk of my wealth is in the crypto, is on chain, right? I need to know how to get money in and out. Like I need to know how to move it around. I need to know the tricks and I need to know the skills. So that's why I'm happy to have you on to like kind of you're trying to help the exchanges like give them the tools to stop this. But when they use your tools, sometimes they'll be cast too wide a net. There'll be too many false positives, and that false positive could be me or could be my family. And I need to know like how to get around these, methods as well. Doesn't make me a criminal, you know.
That's a great question. So again, of course there are some false positives in some platforms, but the idea, that's what we try to do in Nominis, is to have the full context, to tell the full story, not just throwing numbers and statistics, and based on this to the chief compliance or risk analyst need to decide. So, and again, it depends on the exchange. Some exchanges have more risk appetite, some of them have less risk appetite. But the bottom line is that I've heard some cases in some other platforms, especially when we're talking about EVM compatible chain. A lot of KYT vendors aren't able to interpret the results correctly. So they use, for example, They do risk assessment for Uniswap, same like they do for a private wallet, which is of course not correct, because this is a liquidity pool eventually. The problem is that a lot of them, of such tools, and the false positive that you just mentioned now, those tools are implemented in all the big exchanges and DeFi protocols sometimes even. And that causes issues because you move funds from a Uniswap pool that some illicit actor used it. You didn't even know about it because you used Uniswap. I mean, it's the most reputable DeFi exchange in the world. No, it is. So, and you got blocked because the KYT vendor said that those funds are mixed with illicit actor. I think that, in the industry, like you mentioned, some KYT vendors, especially the old ones, need to do some switch in the way that they think about EVM compatible and about smart contracts. I believe that there is still a lot of gap today, and all those false positive and the blocking happening today because misinterpretation of using smart contracts. And they still didn't understand how to do this in the right way. So I fully understand what you mean.
Okay, let's go. We've got 10 minutes left. Let's finish off with the big story of the week. $8 billion Bitcoin moved. You showed us a few graphs in the group chat. Maybe you can share them again and tell us what happened.
Yeah, so seems like someone that collected some funds in the past decided to move it. Like he hold those funds for a lot of years. He didn't lose his private key like a lot of people, that just bought and forgot about it. And I believe we'll see more and more like this. It makes sense, people buy and hold, and that's fine. I saw that there were some, because of this movement, Bitcoin dropped, I believe, like 5% or something like that during the day. But then, the price, it went up again. Those are all speculations. But again, there are a lot of people all around the world that hold Bitcoin since, day one, day two, 2011, and etc. It makes sense for them when Bitcoin is now at all-time high to try and redeem those funds, especially when we're talking about billions of dollars, and especially when it became today easier than in the past to redeem those funds. And then again, the story behind it seems like some of those funds might be linked to some early miners, which again makes sense. It was easy to mine during the time. Someone who holds a few hundreds or thousands of dollars became a billionaire. And we'll see more and more cases like this. I don't think that we need to, to be scared about it. It just makes sense. And, there is in the stock market, some people use a signal that called is an insider selling stocks or not. So people tend to treat this the same, but over the time, by the way, in the traditional stock market, people understand that if the CEO is selling stocks of his own exchange, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that he doesn't trust his company or that something bad is going to happen. It just means that this person needs money, and that's fine. And I believe it's the same in Bitcoin. If someone from the early stage of Bitcoin adopters selling funds, it doesn't mean anything about the future. It can go both ways, and it doesn't mean anything, and people shouldn't be worried about it. Because, people eventually, you got money, you want to sell it, you want to buy other stuff, it makes sense. It doesn't mean anything about the future. That's what I'm trying to say. So we shouldn't be scared about such this. It's not even an incident, just makes sense eventually.
I think everyone just panicked because, like, I think you're right about specifically this case, but I think Satoshi's coins are one of the existential sort of risks that people see in Bitcoin, like the fact that he's got 1 million tokens and he can just stamp on, and like then it becomes a question of whether the buying pressure can sustain a million coins being dumped on the market, which is it's pretty crazy to think that Satoshi would like come out of the woodworks, and we haven't seen anyone. We don't have any proof that it's anyone has any access to those keys. It could be Hal Finney, it could be dead by now. Like there's no proof, but I think that's what people get a little bit upset, a little bit scared all the time. And I think it's sort of like a confirmation bias, like the same way people, point to like people like to point to like supply on exchanges as a signal, like supply on exchange, the people are withdrawing from exchanges, the supply on exchanges is going down. I haven't really seen it being meaningfully correlated with the price action. The same way, yeah, like just because someone's moving coins doesn't make it in any way meaningfully correlated with the price action. So, thank you, Snir. Thank you, Mati from Spain. Enjoy your vacation. Are you working or partying in Spain?
My daughter has a dance competition, so that's why we're here. Moment.
Oh, that's cool, bro. That's really cool. So partying it is. So thank you guys. Snir, thank you for your information. It's really important to have Snir. He's one of the biggest assets we have in the community because he lets us kind of understand how it's working from the back, what the compliance officer at the exchange sees, and we'll keep monitoring this because this keeps developing and keeps progressing. And the last thing we want is people to be stuck, unable to move their funds, and like with good reason. Like as you mentioned, a lot of these crypto concepts that whether it's self-hosted wallet, whether it's swaps, whether it's cross-chain bridging, all these things, they don't exist in traditional finance. But nevertheless, I think, and this is my fear, unless we get a Trump-like movement here in Israel, and I'm speaking specifically about the Israeli context because that's where I live, and that's like what my fear is that because regulators aren't going to understand each and every crypto primitive and what that means, and instead of saying we don't understand, let's just give it a pass, they'll be extra strict and sort of paint everything with a very thick brush and get a lot of false positives. And we see that happening already. Mati had experience, I've had experience, maybe you've had experience as well, trying to move funds and getting blocked in Israel. So, yeah, all we can hope for. Look, I think personally, I'm going to write an article about this soon. Like, I think personally, like we hopefully the war's coming to an end, and then like the country can sort of take a minute to breathe and regroup and get like do some healing, and then we'll be ready to address the Bitcoin question. I think Bitcoin could be a powerful connector between not just all the sectors and the segments of Israeli society, but also with our neighbors in Syria, in Lebanon, in Dubai, around the world. And I think the premise needs to be open, commerce, on-chain open commerce, free exchange of information, capital, and ideas. And that's the Bitcoin way. Like the non-Bitcoin way is let's gate, let's red tape, let's put more, let's tell people you can go to Dubai and do business and you can't go because you're close to the prime minister and you're not. That's not what needs to happen. We need Bitcoin, I think, and I'm still trying to formulate this better, but I think it's the ethos of Bitcoin. You obviously need a screen for terrorist financing, and there needs to be some what I call common sense regulation. My problem is when regulation becomes a little too ambitious and tries to, control the narrative as opposed to just putting in the framework and saying, guys, play in this framework, and the rest is up to you guys to decide.
Absolutely.
I like what you were saying about Bitcoin bringing peace to the Middle East. I disagree
Yeah.
with what you're saying about regulation, but we can save that for another time. I'm going to say a big amen to that, brother. Peace in the Middle East.
What you disagree about? What you disagree?
I don't think the governments have to regulate what people do with their money. I don't think that's a worthwhile path for humanity. I don't think that's a worthwhile resource or just a strain on resources. And it eventually leads to corruption. But again,
Yeah.
we can definitely save that for a whole other topic and another discussion.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, thank you, gent. Enjoy your drive, Mati. Enjoy your dance. Snir, thank you so much. We will see you guys on the next episode next week. It's
Thank you.
cool, bro. Eyes on the road. Eyes on the road. The last guy who drove on a Spanish highway was Diego Jota. It didn't end well for him. So just keep your eyes on the road. Sweet birds. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy. See you guys on the
Thank
next
you.
week. Peace.
Thank you. Bye bye.